What is C11? C11 exemption from LMIA process is granted for entrepreneurs and business owners. It's a very specific application type. It's a very unique path to Canadian permanent residency. So I treat this video as consultation for you, dear audience, and it will be rather long. I got my coffee, I am prepared. If you need to grab a tea or coffee, please do so, take a break, and return to this video. At the end of this video, by the way, I will spend some time explaining how to transition from this temporary status to permanent residency in Canada, because there is a way. Well, let's start with value features for applicants. Why it's important, why it's useful for people to utilize opportunities that belong specifically to C11 path to Canada. Let me start with explanation and certain definitions that immigration use for this particular type of visa as internal points of orientation, how to understand if the applicant is genuine. So value features for applicants include facts like business ownership and control, because owners must have over 51% control over the business. If you have less, then you have to watch our video about C10 or simply business visitors. We have both on our website. Very valuable resource. So coming back, this visa is exempt from LMIA market, meaning you're not competing with employment market in Canada, and work authorization granted specifically because you are entrepreneur. You are majority shareholder in your business. You have to run it here. Pathway to permanent residency. Watch until the end. I will dedicate a special section of this video to this specific feature for the applicants. And significant benefit focus. Government of Canada, and we will dedicate some time to this, how they assess it, but Government of Canada would like to see that you bring benefit to Canadian economy, culture, and community. And last but not least, this is a temporary visa by nature, not a permanent residency application. So don't be confused when you approach a lawyer, a consultant, or somebody else on the market who promote that they do this service. Be careful. This is very unique application. Well, you can either fail it or win it. By the way, approval rate is rather high, over 80%. Why? If you prepare it right, like with us, we have probably even higher rate of approval for C11, so you will be protected by good preparation. Well, now, a very important section of this video regarding key qualifications. As always, you can take my word for it, or we can also look at government regulations, how they instruct immigration officers in assessment of those applications. Entrepreneurs starting a new business can be qualified for this C11, but you definitely have to be absolutely certain that you're not making something fictitious. So if you start a new business, you have to prepare everything to prove that process. You either own the business already, or you're starting a new business, but you have to be here and they will assess you against entrepreneurs starting a new business category. Another qualification or type of applicants is a business buyers. Let's say you run franchise, McDonald's or some other fast food or other hotel franchise or bed and breakfast franchise somewhere overseas, and you would like to come here and purchase an established franchise in Canada. Of course you qualify for C11 because it's not business visitor per se. You have to do some legwork on the ground, so to speak. So another category is very interesting, especially in light of temporary pause on self-employed program. Self-employed professionals. Let's say you have a studio and you would like to introduce your product, your inventions, or your art to Canadian public. You want to establish yourself here, and it's essential that you here and you benefit from this particular type of visa. And one particular category is very interesting. Founders that intend to transition to permanent residency category. Sometimes people say, well, why don't we apply directly for PNP or something else? Well, that requires a lot of resources. Why risk a lot of money if you can start slow and, well, not too slow, but with minor investment, with affordable structure that you can maintain without risking huge investment and long-term commitment. That's very important. Equally important is another moment, how people can apply, where they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be overseas or they're supposed to be in Canada? Not quite. You can apply from both locations, but if you're in Canada, you have to be not on a visitor status. You have to be on a work permit or study permit. And by the way, we have founders who apply for C11 LMIA exemption based on their own business while they were attending university or postgraduate program or PhD program or MBA. That's very well qualify them for C11 as a basis. So if you're overseas, that's fundamental for you to understand. You apply from overseas, presenting everything to the local consulate. So you count on you're at the mercy of local professionals at the consulate if they understand business. Usually, majority of consulates, they have 1 or 2 or 3 professionals who specialize in business applications. Well, the whole title of C11 is about significant benefit to Canada. But people always ask me, Dr. Alex, but what exactly we need to bring to Canada so Canada can consider this as a benefit? Well, again, without long overdue, we would like to dive into definitions provided by the Government of Canada. How Government of Canada assess benefits for Canadian society? Job creation. Well, kind of obvious, but you have to understand, if you're creating sustainable business, above minimum wage jobs for Canadians, don't you think Canada would welcome you? Of course. Innovation. Commitment from Canada, and by the way, you can look at latest announcement of Canadian government. Innovation is welcome to Canada, and especially in time when startup visa, the very attractive program is on temporary pause. This particular feature of C11 is magnificent, especially for innovators. Okay. Another very valuable criteria is rural or underserved regions of Canada. Trust me, with high concentration of population in 5-6 major cities along the border with the United States, the rest of Canada can be considered as rural or underserved region. And that's exactly the point of this particular criteria for government to assess if your business will be available in this or that community outside big urban centers. Market development. If your business support Canadian exports, if your business expanding into new diverse markets, and many people thinking, oh, I can probably establish something in Canada and export something from Canada to my own market, which I know very well. Right way of thinking, but needs some polishing here. And that's why you need us, I guess. Economic benefits as a whole cover general description of how business can generate opportunities for Canadians to be employed, to develop local markets, and definitely bring benefit of innovation and new technologies into Canada. So those five major categories we identify as definition for Canadian benefit, which will be basically foundation for your application on the C11 path. Well, I know you're waiting for this part most of any other information in this video. How to transition, if you undertake this path, how to transition from C11 to permanent residency in Canada. Well, It's complex, it's not easy. We have to be very careful and strategically oriented towards the final goal. We need to know that you want to be here on a permanent residency, first of all, and then we can build all this structure of our applications and how you transition, what requires from you and for you to perform, and how to actually exercise your options on the ground in Canada in order to be qualified. It's all about strategy, but it's also about tactics. Of course, with temporary pause on startup visa program, that avenue is kind of on hold, but don't forget, if it's closed temporarily, by the time you're here on C11, by the time you develop your business, that may be reopened. Backlog reduction measures work as we see, and who knows, maybe that avenue will be reopened, which was very popular for people on the C11 path. Another avenue, of course, based on a province where you're located, apply and transition yourself into provincial nominee program, because you already proved that you're useful for Canadian society and regional communities in that specific province. Another avenue may be considered through upcoming entrepreneur and investor program in Canada, because you probably realize by now that you have to make an investment in Canada. You probably already understand that you have to create significant benefit for Canadian society. Well, that's exactly what those programs, upcoming programs, will be all about. At this very moment of our conversation, people usually ask, Dr. Alex, it's enough, we're ready, where to start? Well, the best way to start is to order business consultation. You can find link in the description below. And why we suggest that particular step? Well, because we need to understand you, our client. We need to understand your background, your specific needs, your family composition, your potential settlement plan. We need to add value to your life, not suggest something that will contradict your intentions. And definitely that is the way for us to assess you and then offer you consultation and then discuss all paths available for you and the best steps to undertake that path going forward. With this, I would like to hear your opinion, your comment in the section below. You can leave your question or comment. And if you find this video interesting and useful, please share it with someone who can benefit from this. As always, like, subscribe to our channel, help us to create more useful content for you, and stay safe by staying informed.